All right, so the last thing we're going to talk about, which this shouldn't be a very long video, is where things are digested and where things are broken down chemically for absorption. Mechanical digestion starts in the mouth no matter what. But chemical digestion is going to start depending on what materials in the mouth, the stomach, or the small intestines. So when we talk about carbohydrates, carbohydrate digestion starts in the mouth with salivary amylase. This is going to break down our carbohydrates like starch and glycogen into their disaccharides, maltose, sucrose, or lactose, which will then be broken down into the monosaccharides. So this occurs in the mouth, and then in the small intestines, we have pancreatic amylase as well as maltase, sucrase, and lactase that are going to break down the materials into their small monomers that are located here. Protein digestion starts in the stomach. And so this process starts in the stomach and it finishes in the small intestines. So we start with the active form of pepsinogen, known as pepsin, that is broken down in the stomach. This breaks your proteins into large peptides and then into smaller peptides and amino acids. So this is going to move into the small intestines. This is going to move into the small intestines where we have other protein enzymes from our brush border as well as from our pancreas. So pancreatic proteases are going to break down these small peptides or large peptides into amino acids, which then can be absorbed into our blood. We have lipid digestion occurs mainly in the small intestine. So we do have lingual lipase that can start lipid digestion, but it doesn't do that much. We have gastric lipase that also can start lipid digestion, but again, it doesn't do that much. So the majority of our lipid digestion occurs in the small intestines, where pancreatic lipase is released and breaks down the lipids. When you take pancreatic lipase and you take bile, put them together, they're going to not only break down, but they emulsify the lipids so that they're in small globules, and then they can form a protective coating around the small globules that can enter our blood. So up here you can see these tiny little fatty acids and monoglycerides. As the bile comes in, it emulsifies the lipids even further and forms a protective wrapping called a micelle. So here we have a lipid with a micelle wrapping around it. This can enter our cells, and then it takes the micelle to the Golgi, and at the Golgi we add some proteins. So fat and proteins combined in that micelle, and it forms what we call a chylomicron. The chylomicron then can enter the lacteal, and the lacteal then can move the lipids to our liver. Then we have nucleic acids. Nucleic acids digestion occurs in the small intestines. There are two pancreatic enzymes that are responsible for nucleic acid breakdown, and that is deoxyribonuclease and ribonuclease. So these will break down the nucleic acids, and then we can absorb them, and we can use them in production of new nucleic acids. We also have to be able to absorb the water that we take in. So there's a lot of digestive secretions and water that go into the digestive system. So we have food and drink that comes in. About 2,000 milliliters of material is coming in. We have 1,500 milliliters of saliva that we're producing daily, between 1,000 and 1,500. So that together goes into the stomach, where we have another 1,500 milliliters of gastric secretions. And remember, most of this is water. So now we're up to about 5,000 milliliters of material. In the small intestines, we have bile, pancreatic juice, and intestinal secretions, which brings us up 4 more thousand. So that's 9,000 milliliters of material. But we don't release that much material. We're going to absorb almost all of it. Okay? So here we're absorbing about 7,800 milliliters of the fluid, of the water, back into our blood. So the majority of the fluid that comes in is going to be reabsorbed in the small intestines. But with 7,800, we still have 1,200 milliliters left, right? And then we have more secretions, more mucus that is entering, so in the large intestines, so about 200 milliliters more of fluid, so that's 1,400 milliliters. We're still not getting rid of all of that. The majority of this fluid is going to be reabsorbed in the large intestines. So in fecal matter, we only lose about 150 milliliters of fluid, which means, well, unless we have severe diarrhea or something. So that means that we're retaining the majority of the water that comes in via food and drink. And this is all I have for you for chapter 23. I'll be working on chapter 24 shortly, and I'll be posting these videos. Have a great day. Bye.